No problem. I'll record it to the cloud, not to my computer. Okay, well, perhaps we can just, thanks for having us. It's really exciting to be here, part of this conversation. Let's just make it a bit more of a conversation. Perhaps we can start by getting to know everybody who is here a little bit more, but our hope is really to facilitate a conversation about impact and growth. We are here from Within People. I'm Kendall, Clifton Short, and Jeff and Nikki and Emily are also here. Our work is really at the intersection of brand, culture, and growth, and we are committed to supporting leaders on a journey of creating equitable workspaces that are underpinned by purpose and values, because we know that that's the key to driving sustained impact and growth, especially as the world around us changes. Plus we love boutique beer, and particularly Emily and I, we enjoy the quirkiness of the brewpub world in Montana. And for those of us who live here, there's so much of what you're doing that's foundational or founded in impact, which is really exciting for us too. So let's get started by meeting some of you. So Matt, do you want to kick us off, just who you are, and then maybe you can pass it to some other folks that are in the audience?
Sure. Matt Leo. I'm the Executive Director of the Montana Brewers Association of Missoula. I am not outside on the patio at Kell House 3 out in Bonner, but that is the background I have here. And I've been with the Montana Brewers Association since 2015. So just over 5 years now. And we've been, we started talking within people because of our commitment to working toward equality and social justice. I think there's been a lot of increased consciousness about that this year. And like a lot of other organizations and businesses, we're making a commitment to doing better in that area. And Daniel was kind enough to connect us to Within People to give us ideas to help inform us about how to go through that process. So through that conversation, we invited Within People to be here today and run this session. So this is really just the start of a conversation. That's what we're hoping this session today to be.
Daniel, do you want to jump in next? Or do you have your mouth full of taco?
Oh, no. Give me some warning, Kendall. Apologies. That's a good talker. I'm Daniel. I'm the brewmaster and director of operations at Bridger Brewing here in Bozeman. I'm also a board member with the Montana Brewers Association. And I met Within People, gosh, it's been several months now. Kendall and I met each other through a manufacturing partnership that we have here in Bozeman, through her other work she's done in the community, and then was kind enough to reach out and let me know that Within People was hosting a webinar series a few months ago. And so I managed to sneak away for one of those, and it was very insightful and helped us starting to form those kind of conversations internally about how we want to respond to changes in society and using our ability to raise up other voices and direct our community involvement to be more impactful. And so we're kind of in the baby phase of that, and we're working Within People. So far, we're kind of still in the process of the initial rollout there. So, but we're very excited about that. And it seemed like a great fit to introduce Within People to the Montana Brewers Association, because we've been having these conversations at the board level. And I know a lot of businesses statewide are having these conversations internally as well. And it can be tricky and uncomfortable. And there are tools available to us to have these conversations, and we shouldn't resort to inaction just because we're worried about maybe opening our mouth and sticking our foot in it or tripping up because the end result is just so impactful and so beneficial. So with that, I will mute myself and turn my camera back off. Thank you.
Keep eating your taco. Perfect. Dustin, do you want to go next if you might have to jump in and out? Maybe he's already on a call. How about Matt, the other Matt?
Yes, hello. So yes, Matt Muth, brewer owner of 406 Brewing Company, and part of the MBA and also on the board. And I guess, yeah, you know, kind of echoing what Daniel said, you know, I think we as an industry definitely have a wide swath of the population that enjoys our product, and we understand that. And we also, as an industry, do a lot of outreach. And I think one thing that I'm really looking forward to is being able to connect more, learn more about what kind of outreach maybe we're missing, and how we can incorporate ourselves more into our community, society, and what we're able to do. I think all breweries pride themselves on the ability for us to connect with our local communities. So I think this is really going to help us to broaden that and find a larger horizon, and then be able to form more relationships. And I'm excited about that for sure. So thank you.
Great. Well, let's dive in then. You know, we're really here to talk about how do we drive meaningful business and industry impact? How do we grow our impact, and in doing so, grow our business? So for us, if the key question we really want to start exploring is how do we focus our impact and grow in, especially as the world around us changes, because if there's one thing for certain, it's that the world will keep throwing different challenges at us, then, you know, our belief is that it's purpose that guides our impact and growth. And so today we really want to have a bit of an exploration into, well, why is purpose? You know, we know that because we're working with businesses every day, but what is the business case for purpose, and what gets in the way of it being the powerful lever of growth and impact that we know it can be? And then how might we start on that journey a bit more intentionally? So that's really our sort of helicopter ride over the next 45 minutes. So I'm going to hand over to Jeff to start us on that journey.
You're on mute.
We really are tech masters, despite what it looks like.
Honestly, rookie error today. Sorry, everyone. That's okay. That helps me to go back to let's start again, Jeff. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff, based in the Bay Area. We're going to talk about purpose first, because when we think about impact from the lens of within people, our purpose is really where our impact lives. And when we think about our role in the community, or the role that even our product plays in the lives of the people that we serve, all of that is hidden or even explicit in the purpose that we have as a business. And so some businesses have invested a lot in really going through a big purpose exploration to find out what their purpose is, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. And other companies have just had a purpose for a long time, and they set up the business, maybe an entrepreneur set up their business for a reason, and maybe explicitly they haven't written it down, but they haven't connected it really into what's driving their business growth or their vision of what they want to see in the world. And a lot of our work is to help our clients uncover the truth of what's already there. So that's why we're called Within People. We believe that purpose is within you, and our job is to really help help you get it out into the world so that you can make the most of it. And so the business case for purpose is really something that's been coming along over the past sort of 10 years or so, and is really, I think you'll see a lot of it out in the world in terms of, you know, what are people saying about business? There is a big thing from Larry Fink, not last Christmas, but the year before, from BlackRock, talking about like purpose-driven businesses are the ones that are going to make us money. But this isn't new. I mean, this kind of thinking has been going on for a while. So really, Jim Stengel, who's a bit of a brand guru, he was from Millward Brown. He was one of the first people to say, like, the fastest growing brands are the ones that have been focused on a higher purpose. So he did a lot of research. They cataloged the 50 top brands that have been growing the fastest, and each of them had a purpose at its core. And some of those brands are ones that are familiar to us, like the Patagonias of the world, also Stonyfield, who was a client of ours, you know, where they really put purpose at the heart. Whole Foods, before it was sold, I think is a really good purpose success story. But, you know, and there's some other facts that can really help us connect into this around, you know, some studies lately around they tend to be more profitable, right? So 85% of purpose-led companies have shown growth in the past 3 years, while 42% of non-purpose-led companies showed a drop in revenue. So what you can read into that is the ones that know their purpose and are using it to really drive connection with their consumers, to drive relevance, to drive the outreach that they want to make with their community, and also to help them with their innovation around what their customers really need, are the ones that are seeing revenue growth. But also, we're living in a time of deep uncertainty right now with the pandemic. It's hit every sector, some a lot more than others. But you know, leaders, 73% of leaders believe that having purpose will help during business disruption. That was a fact that came out before the pandemic. So it's going to be interesting to see as we go through the pandemic, what's the stats for that. But really, it's only 9% of leaders that feel their purpose is put to good use. So there's a lot of companies out there that will say that they've got their purpose, but are they using it? Have they used it for that outreach, that connection, to help them drive their innovation, and even just help them stay true to who they are, right? Which is quite often a real driving factor. So within people, this is what we mean about purpose. So it's really that guiding existence. It's our why. It reflects our passion. So it's very true to what we see in the world. And I think when it comes to you folk in terms of brewers, it's like, why are we in the business of brewing? Like, can we connect to that passion and really let that shine through? And it's the role we play in our vision of the world that we want to see. And this is where social impact really plays a big role as well. So what it should be authentic. It should be really simple. It's memorable. It's who we are, but it's not some catchy slogan. You know, there's a lot of bad ones out there that we'll talk about in a second. It's not a tagline. It's not an outcome like being the #1 in the world. That's not a purpose. And maybe you guys have heard a little bit about a lot of companies that want to find a different social purpose, right? It's different from their business, that says, you know, this is how we contribute to society over here, but actually we just make beer. And it's like, no, we need to integrate these things to have one reason for existence and one way that we serve our community, so that we're really seen as being authentic as to who we are. And Amy's Kitchen is the story I want to talk a little bit about with you guys before. And I'm sure I've mentioned this to some of you before, including Daniel. I think we had a chat about it before. Amy's Kitchen's purpose is to make it easy and enjoyable for everyone to eat well. We've worked with them for over 4 years. We help them with that purpose. That is the purpose that they've always had. They've been in business for 30 years. But they didn't have it written down. And the reason they wanted to write it down was because of legacy. They wanted to pass the family business on down into the generations. And it was really important for Andy and Rachel, the Berliners who are seen here, to really capture that essence, because in each of these words of their purpose statement is something that they really need to make sure is enshrined. And the most important thing that they need to make true you know, in case they're not here for the next couple generations, and maybe Amy's Kitchen, you know, doesn't stay as an independent business over time, we just don't know, is that they will always be organic, they will always be vegetarian, and they will always be sustainable. So enshrining that in their purpose and in the principles of their foundation became the super important thing to them. And as we'll see as we go on, because we'll tell a little bit more stories about them as we go through, this purpose statement helps them to show up in the community and helps them to navigate some of the challenges like wildfires, like Black Lives Matter, like things in their supply chain when there's not enough organic spinach to put in all the soup. How do they navigate that, and how do they use their purpose as something that really drives their business growth? So, question for discussion. I'm curious if there's other businesses that you guys think of when you think of purpose. And I'm curious if you've seen what it's given their business. So maybe there's some other businesses out there that have been like, you know, they're doing it well. And then what do you see in what it's doing for their business that could also give your own? So open to the floor to see if we can have a bit of a discussion about that. Purpose greatest hits, what have you seen it giving their business, and what could it give yours? Who wants to pop?
I don't want to sound like a broken record because I know we've had this chat before, but obviously Patagonia jumps to mind, but to not use Patagonia again, even though we love them, especially here in Montana.
Yeah.
Everybody wears them. You know, Ben & Jerry's, I mentioned before when we've talked, is a company that, even though they are now owned, I believe, by a much larger company, Procter & Gamble or somebody.
Unilever, yeah.
Unilever, there we go. You know, they still have that authenticity and clarity of purpose to really, you know, make a bold political statement when they feel something is being done against their values. So I'll kind of mute myself again.
And what does it give? What do you think it's given them, Daniel? So they could have just gone become part of Unilever and just towed the Unilever line. Although Unilever has, of course, pivoted to being, you know, a sustainable brand
Right.
as a group conglomerate. Lots to debate in that. Not enough time today. But what do you think it's given Ben & Jerry's to really stick to what they stand for?
It does give them that credibility with people. You know, there's a certain market they are appealing to with some of their political statements, and those of us who are in that market respect them for it and are willing to pay more for the product and seek it out. And when they don't make a very big verbal deal often, so when they do, it carries even more impact because it's like, wow, somebody really crossed the line. That Ben & Jerry's, the ice cream company, are getting political, and you know, they are political. They always have been, but for them to go out and like do a marketing campaign about it, you know, it's pretty legit. So.
Right. So they've got that authenticity. They've got the ability and the permission to say a lot of things, don't they? Now they've earned that through that, keeping that sort of integrity. But you know what, when they came out quite quickly to speak up on the Black Lives Matter movement, they did so in a way was very much on their terms, on their tone. And you know, there was some criticism about it. I've read some things on Instagram like, oh, like, is there going to be a new flavor coming out and stuff like that? And it's like, you're going to have that, but they don't give a shit today. Like,
no, they don't. Yeah. It's
right?
like, I almost compare it to like Rage Against the Machine, right?
Yeah.
Like they've been in the news lately, and those of us who've listened to them since the 90s or whenever they first started playing, it's like you've always known what they're singing about.
Yeah.
And maybe you weren't paying attention, but they didn't change. Like they are the same the whole time. And it's just like, well, oh my goodness, why would like what machine did you think they were raging against? You know? So, like when Ben & Jerry's came out with their statements, you know, it had that credibility, and it was like, okay, it didn't feel inauthentic like it does with a lot of brands, right? Because
Yeah.
we just we get inundated with stuff every year, and it's like, from breast cancer to Gay Pride Month to Black History Month to whatever the thing is. Typically, when a brand is marketing with it, it just feels so inauthentic and like Toyota, or pick a car company during COVID, like, we're there for you. Like, no, you're not. Like, why the hell would I buy a car during COVID? I don't care about, They're like, you know what you need? A picnic outside in the fresh air and a Toyota Camry. It's like, what is wrong with you? It really seems insincere. Whereas when Ben and Jerry's did it, at least that back, it just felt really like, okay, they're responding true to their message. So.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Great example. Who's got another one?
Well, despite Daniel saying we can't use Patagonia, I'm going to use it.
Okay.
You can use
particularly because of what they're currently doing with the back of their labels, with the vote the assholes out. And, I really respect that. They're brave. They really don't care about the criticism that they get, and they're not afraid of a fight. They stand for what they stand for. And, you see that a lot where somebody will make a statement and then they get pushback, which is, it's so common these days with social media. You're always going to get pushback from somebody. And then people, they start backpedaling and, and watering down their original statement. And you just don't see that with Patagonia, because I think it's along the lines of what Daniel was just talking about. It's authentic. It's established. They're not going to wither when they feel the heat.
Right. And so like Ben and Jerry's, they've had that platform for a while. But again, they always stood by their purpose, right? So again, not so written down, but in the soul of the founder. So with Yves Chouinard, and then over time, they've gotten better at sort of crafting it and writing it down. But do they get to say what they get to say just because they've been in business for a couple decades? Or is this something that every company can jump into? Matt, what's your thoughts on that? Is it through the pedigree that we get that voice, or can we always stand for what we stand for?
That's a great question. They're established, and I think that they can weather the storm. They have a loyal following, et cetera. For a less established business, maybe it feels riskier to stand out like that. I don't know what the answer is. I'm maybe not the best person to answer that question, because for the past 20 years, I've been an activist and an advocate. And, so I personally, through my work life, working with nonprofits and now being a business owner of my own firm, I'm not shy about standing up for what I believe in, but I can also see where for some folks that's not the focus of their business. It can be really scary to think about the blowback you can get.
So one of the things that Jim Stengel talks about in his book Grow, which really resonated with me, even though that book's quite a few years old now, is the reason why purpose-driven businesses are growing is because of trust, right? And it's because those businesses in the top 50 have shown up consistently to what they're saying with what they do, with their product, with their marketing, with their leadership, with the way they treat their staff. So to me, every business can we have to earn our trust from our community, right? We've got to prove that we walk the talk. That's where the integrity lives. Every business has to start with that from day one. So if you're a startup and you want to earn trust so that you get more punters through the door, you're doing that by serving great quality food and drink, and you're at prices that match them, and you're not ripping them off. That's the basics of our industry, right? So as we're earning trust, how do we show up to the things that really matter to us? So if we're out of integrity, if we have a purpose and we're showing up for social action, but we treat our staff like crap and we don't pay them well, their trust is broken, because people know that. And this is what social media has done, is it's exposed the ones where it's broken. And that's why there's that hesitation, isn't there? Like, should we say this? Because what if we're not living up to it? And I think Kendall's going to talk a little bit about how we activate, because that's the most important bit. We need to know our purpose. We have to have the right story, but we have to be living it as we go through the dealings of our business, and that's where the trust comes, and that's where the growth comes from.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. And I think the interesting thing about all of this is that our purpose provides the clues for how we show up to those issues and how we start to behave in a way that is authentic, that reinforces that we're trustworthy, I guess. And so if we go back to Amy's as an example, so if their purpose is to make it easy and enjoyable for everyone to eat well, their purpose statement really speaks to 4 sort of themes that influence and move through all of their decision making. So affordability, happiness, accessibility, and healthy choices. And so these themes, I guess, almost become tension points that they use to shape decisions and inform the way that they're responding. So if the public can afford their food, but their staff can't, then that's a tension that they need to resolve. If they're not, it gives them a voice or a pathway to speak to Black Lives Matter issue and from a food poverty perspective that's going to feel authentic and not, and that's my dog, sorry, and not just jumping on the Black Lives Matter bandwagon. So healthy speaks to, being like fundamentally at their core, always and forever being organic and vegetarian and sustainable. And back to affordability too, it's about price point, isn't it? If they're going to make, let's say, a $10 soup that is not going to be accessible to many Americans, then what's driving that? Is do they just like that price tag and they're trying to rip people off? Or is the price of organic spinach driving that $10 price tag? In which case it really compels them to then start working with the supply chain to shift that so that they can make soup that is more affordable. So it provides it pinpoints, I guess, what is ours to play with and what role do we need to be stepping into and playing in the multitude of options that we have. So when we look to our purpose and find the answers to all of these different things the world is going to throw to us, we can show up to them in a really authentic way that does build that trust. So for us, about showing up and understanding and having a powerful purpose that we can activate really is underpinned by these 3 things. Like, what problem are you trying to solve? What is happening in your community that you feel compelled to play a role in? And that's going to be different, obviously, for every different organization and dependent on where they live and what matters to them. We also then need to understand, well, if we solved that problem, what would the world look like? What world are we trying to create? What impact are we trying to have in people's lives? What is a world without that problem? What does that even look like? And with that clarity, we can then say, okay, so what's our role to play? Because we're not going to be the only player trying to solve that problem. And we all may have a very similar version of the world that we're trying to create. So which hat are we wearing in contributing to the solution for that? So with that clarity, we really have this, powerful North Star to help us navigate in uncertain times. So I know Daniel's seen these, but when it's done right, it can really shape how organizations look at innovating products and services in a really aligned way that is deeply connected to who they are as the world changes. Your purpose never changes, but how you respond or what you offer to the world in response to what's going on in the world might change. And so when we can think about, well, who do we need to be? How do we need to show up? What do we need to offer to the world, this new world that we now find ourselves in? When that's rooted in this really deep understanding of what the problem is, what the impact we're trying to make, and how we're showing up to that, then we can do it in an authentic way. So another little bit of an example, the first picture, the Brewgel Punk Sanitizer, is a UK-based brewery, and their sort of purpose or manifesto states that they exist to redefine British beer drinking culture. So instead of, during COVID, I should say, rather than sort of stepping into that mission and really asking themselves, well, what's our role to play in redefining British beer drinking culture in a pandemic, they went off script and created this punk hand sanitizer, which, you know, unfortunately for them, turned out to be substandard for hospitals and actually wasn't particularly helpful in trying to solve the pandemic problem that had been created. So all of a sudden, their authenticity and the trust people had and the relevance they had in the market plummeted. So whether or not that it was well intentioned, presumably it was, it didn't turn out to be a sort of revenue generating project that, and certainly it's not going to live beyond the pandemic if there is ever such a thing. So let's just for a minute compare that to Signature Brew, the picture on the right, and they're on a mission to revolutionize the quality of beer at live music events through music-inspired craft. So in our world, that's slightly too long for a purpose statement, but we do get the essence of what they're trying to do. So obviously no live music, no, you know, big events with hundreds and thousands of people. That's so much part of UK culture. So their pivot was really to bring the pub to their consumers rather than bringing their consumers to the outdoor pub. And so they put together these little boxes that had everything you need to have your own music-inspired garden party in your backyard: beer, snacks, glassware, a musical quiz. And then they paired up and got together with out-of-work musicians and had them deliver these boxes. So all of a sudden, people's trust in this brand skyrocketed. Here they were meeting a different need in a really authentic way that people got behind and were really excited about, and that can live on beyond COVID. So, you know, we need to stop thinking about purpose as a way of like suddenly realizing we're useful to society, when the core of what we do is underpinned by us being in service to others. Then no matter what we produce, no matter how we respond, we're going to do it in a way that fills a need in our community. So with that clarity of our North Star, you know, every brand can then see how, you know, in whatever moment they find themselves in the world, they really can be authentically of value to their community and be relevant and build that trust that really is going to underpin that growth that they're looking for. So I guess let's just have a quick conversation around, you know, so what's getting in the way of creating meaningful impact for people? Who do you see trying to do this well and falling flat? Who do you see actually doing it gracefully and beautifully? And what's getting in the way for people of having this be the impact that, or having this drive the impact that they want it to? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think just everybody's busy with other stuff, right? Whether it's brewing beer or training staff to comply with new health guidelines or whatever it is, there are all these other, I wouldn't call them distractions, but there are other things that are important and a lot of times rise to the top as far as urgency or priority scale. And these other things about our living our values and incorporating that in how we do business can easily get put to the back burner, especially during such a chaotic time like this.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on, Matt. I think we get caught in this zero-sum game. Like, I can either do this or I can invest in that. And we're forever stuck. It's like, well, I can either train somebody how to do that job well so I no longer have to do it, or I can pick up the slack and do it for them. And in the moment, just picking up the slack and doing it for them is the most cost-effective, or time-effective, I should say, way to solve the problem. But it gets us stuck in this perpetual cycle of, and I have to keep doing it for them over and over and over again. So how do we how do we actually, rather than thinking, well, this is one more thing I have to do and my to-do list is already longer than I want it to be, how do we actually see this as part of the to-do list, or something that unlocks some of the to-do list, or a way to rethink the to-do list in a totally different perspective?
To follow up on what Matt was saying, this year in particular, there have been so many crises and social justice issues and humanitarian issues, and it's just like there's a mental capacity and emotional capacity, right? And we're just so exhausted constantly, and it's like it's hard to remember just how much stuff has happened this year. You know what I mean? And it almost just it desensitizes you in some regards, but it also, our attention span, like Matt was saying, it's just like, okay, oh, the next thing happened, the next thing happened, the next thing, and it's easy to get distracted. And if we don't have that purpose and that clarity, like you mentioned, it's very easy to get swept along. And you know, when we've talked about it with Bridget Brewing and with some people, you know, with us and like our Pints with Purpose nights, and how we never really want to say no to a charity, and how that can almost dilute your impact because, you know, you're allowing anybody. I mean, we have certain rules that I won't get into as far as political things or religious things that we just don't get involved with. That's an ownership decision, but it really distracts us from honing in on a couple of things and really making a deep impact. You know, it's very that surface level scratching instead of deep impact.
Yeah, and I love that point, Daniel, because, you know, if you're constantly saying yes and there's never a no, and you're exhausted, right? I mean, that's just compounding that, isn't it? Because now we're over here, and now we're over here, and now we're going over there, and now we're going over there. And if you layer in that, well, we don't necessarily have the clarity to know how to respond to things. Like in Montana before, there was the compulsory mask mandate. You know, do we have our servers wear masks? Do we have our guests wear masks? You know, if we don't have anything that sort of provides that North Star, that guide as to like how we make that decision, then no matter what decision, you know, to our discussion earlier we make, there's going to be people who don't like it. And so we spend our time torn between like, well, this person's giving us a, you know, one star rating because people aren't wearing masks, and this person's deciding that they're not going to come because they are that we're insisting on them wearing masks. And so, yeah, we sort of start to see how without this clarity, we are pulled in way too many directions. And I wonder if you feel, if we had more clarity, would that actually help us say no more? And would it help us really have the conviction we need to stand by our decisions and communicate that clearly with the folks who are saying, but hold on a minute, that's not what I want you to do.
I think it would. I mean, it's with our kind of top level saying yes to everybody, it feels like you're making such a little drop in the bucket that you really just don't feel like you're making any meaningful impact anywhere, especially when some of these questions and these things that are coming up seem so big, and they are so big. I mean, we're talking about, you know, pretty incredible movements happening right now with ongoing civil rights and gay rights and humanitarian crises on our southern border and Syria and all sorts of places. These things just feel so big too that, you know, it's nice to feel like you're making some sort of meaningful impact when your company is relatively so small, and that can, I guess, help us emotionally recharge maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and you're right. Like sometimes we think, oh, this purpose thing, that's just for big companies like Patagonia and even Amy's. Like, yes, they're a food company, but they've been around for a long time. They're well established. But to your point, Daniel, you're right. Like in this world that's so uncertain, and there's crisis after crisis after crisis seeming to throw itself in our news feed all the time, you know, where that can feel really uncertain. And so if we can use our purpose and the impact that we're having to really ground us into something certain when the whole world is swirling around us uncontrollably, that can radically change how doing business feels in the moment.
It's interesting what Matt from 406 was saying before about outreach. Like, how do we actually go out into the community, right? And actually, and sort of galvanize and bring people together, right? Matt, I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah. On how to go out into the community.
Or what stops even that feeling of being able to go and make that outreach for the causes we care about, or the what we see and need in the community being even,
Yeah, I mean, it's there's so many examples you can pin to different each business, I guess. You know, when you look at all of encompassing conversation, if you take into factor the size of the business, maybe the reach that they have is small, and then maybe excuse me, maybe the reach that another brewery has is quite large. I guess what am I trying to get to? I guess just from what I'm hearing is, you know, there are maybe smaller issues, medium-sized issues, and then large issues. And if you kind of ball them up, you know, you also have your ultra local, and then your larger local, and then your national issues, and then within each company, maybe there's not the time, as we had talked about earlier, for people to undertake a lot of these duties. Maybe the focus is narrow, maybe more ultra local, and how to broaden our focus. Maybe try to figure out more, you know, how we can harness larger social matters through our local affiliate organizations. I think that would be good. You know, a lot of organizations do outreach to breweries in order to highlight issues, and then a lot of breweries will have outreach to other organizations that they want to pair with. And you know, in a year's time, like Daniel said, you kind of have to figure out where we want to go, how we want to address what issues. You know, are we saying no to issues that we would like to highlight, and we can't because we see different issues that we actually want to pursue? So I think within that, you know, realm of those ideas, trying to pin down a lot of these obstacles would come, I think, with how large we look, how local we look, and then also what kind of business do we have? Is there someone actually operating this side of outreach, or is it one person wearing so many hats that that they can't put time into it? Does that help?
Yeah, and I mean, if I just can jump in, I love what you're saying about starting to think differently about, you know, the power of the association or the power of the collective. Because if you're all just, you know, one small little brewery, or you're thinking, well, I'm just one small little brewery, what can I really be doing? I've already got 25 different hats on. I've already got 27 different things on my to-do list. It can feel overwhelming even just to take that first step. So starting to think about, well, how do we leverage our community as brewers to maybe start having some of this industry-wide impact that we want. Maybe the impact is really local and community-based, or maybe it is broader and sort of more industry-wide, or maybe how can we start thinking about the collective power that we have and how the collective power of the association can serve us in a different way to drive this impact agenda.
Yeah, kind of top down, be able to bring an umbrella that has a whole bunch of these different dioramas swimming around under it that then you can pull out of certain things from each one that are kind of driven maybe by a larger framework that's provided.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it could look like so many different things. Diorama or no diorama.
Well,
But yeah, no, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that really brings us to sort of the next piece of our conversation, which is, so how do we go on this journey? If we are these individual breweries feeling completely overwhelmed by the amount of hats we have, we're too busy, we're too exhausted, we're too distracted, we might be sold on the idea, but we simply just don't feel like we have the capacity or the energy to respond and be what we want to be in the community in an authentic way, especially in the middle of a pandemic. How do we do that? How do we take our business on this journey when that's the reality of what we're doing? And so our final thought to you is just like, well, we would love to help you with that. We would love to start thinking about the collective power of the association. Start thinking, how can we leverage the fact that we all have some of the same impact goals, and rather than going on this journey as an individual, perhaps going on it as part of a brewing industry community. So, you know, we've been talking to Matt, and the MBA really are excited to be able to sort of put together an opportunity for multiple breweries to go on this journey together and have a collective conversation about growing, you know, the impact of individual businesses and grow the collective strength of your industry. So our suggestion and invitation is really to come on a journey with us that dives deep into the challenges that are specific to your different communities that you feel compelled to address, and build a plan to really activate that impact even in the context of what's going on. And then design also a powerful story so you can be sharing the impact with your community in a really compelling way. So our invitation is that we would take you on a journey of 4 sessions to grow your impact and business. We would really start with like, okay, what impact are we striving to have in the community? What challenges or issues are we feeling compelled to contribute to? How do we activate that? How do we design our product and service offering in a way that really unlocks value for our community and has some of that impact? And how do we tell a powerful story about that connects who we are and what we're doing to our customers and our team? And when we think about it from the perspective of leveraging the collective of the association, rather than it costing what it would cost one organization to go on that journey, we could take a group of you on that journey for significantly less investment of money, obviously still time. So that is really a very quick helicopter view ride, I guess, over what purpose can really unlock and how much clarity it can bring to the day-to-day, and how much it can drive really, or how it's so foundational to you having the impact that you want, and how key it can be as a lever of like, how do we even show up and respond to a world that is constantly changing. So I feel good that we have 2 minutes left to go. It's not often that we actually finish on time, so well done. Perhaps slightly less people helped that. But yeah, maybe we could either finish, Matt, maybe you want to say something, or maybe I'd love to hear from some people just in terms of like what stood out to you today as energizing and compelling and exciting to sort of start thinking about differently.
Yeah, I'll just share with everybody. So when Kendall and I spoke about this, what we're looking at is, first of all, this would typically cost an individual brewery $10,000 to do. And so by doing it collectively through the association, there's a significant price reduction there talking about $1,500 per brewery to have at least 5 breweries come together and go on this journey together. Unfortunately, we don't have 5 breweries here today, so it makes this a little bit different. It's more of a hypothetical. Okay, we have some board members on here, and test the water, see if folks think this is something that our members would be interested in. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough people here today to be able to ask them directly. But I think it's a great idea. I do think it's a great opportunity, and I really appreciate Kendall and the rest of the Within People team being flexible and offering us this opportunity.
No, it's been great. We love having these types of conversations and really helping unlock opportunities by thinking differently about things, because the world has changed with COVID. We don't all have the same cash flow that we might have 6 months ago. And if we're going to solve problems that matter creatively, then we need to think differently about how we do that. Any other final thoughts from anyone about what's a key takeaway?
I just wanted to say thanks again for taking the time. This is obviously super exciting stuff, and it's fun to hear other people's thoughts, and then have Matt and Matt chime in on some of this stuff. I only wish that more people had taken the opportunity to kind of hear about the potential here. So hopefully we can get this session out to a big group and kind of knock down that barrier and get a few other people besides myself and whoever else wants to sign up involved.
We do have our annual membership meeting, which we typically do in person at our conference, but we are, rather than try to force one more thing this week, we've pushed that back to October 21st. So that will be another opportunity to share this. Daniel and I think, can tag team on that and present this to our membership. Might be nice to get a couple slides from your team, and just to give them some visuals when we go through it.
Yeah, well, I've sent this deck that we've used today to Jonathan, so feel free to share that. And then he also has like 1 or 2 pager just about how the 4 sessions would roll out for people.
That makes sense. We can just grab a few of the slides from your presentation.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, thank you very much. It's been fun discussion, and yeah, any opportunity to get a bit more insight into what you're doing and that some of the challenges is fun for us. So we appreciate the opportunity.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Meet you all.
Hope to see
Go
you
have
soon.
some beer.
Yeah, go have some beer. Yeah. Good beer.
Almost done. Cheers.
Bye.